He was born to destroy evil. But destiny had darker plans. Betrayed by blood. Reborn through pain. He became the most feared creature of the night. This is his story, a tragic descent into darkness. You're watching Movie Blink Recap. Let's dive in. This beautiful woman Jean lifted her companion's skirt. Unable to control her bloodthirsty desire, she bit into the other's thigh and began to suck blood. Sharp fangs protruded from her mouth. She had clearly become a vampire. Standing nearby was her master, the one who turned her, an ancient vampire who had lived for 500 years. She was born on a cool, moonlit night. Let us return to that night, when the demoness Seth gave birth in a stone cave. The child carried the bloodline of Vladislas, the vampire. A prophecy foretold that one day, she would personally kill her own father. Fearing the prophecy would come true, Seth gripped her demon-slaying sword, intending to end the child's life. But a group of crusaders suddenly stormed in. They pierced the demoness Seth with a holy cross and kidnapped both the newborn and the demon-slaying sword. The baby boy was taken to a church, where a priest cut off his claws and sharp ears. They massaged his face with sacred potions to make him look human. He was raised under the church's training and was given a new name, Radu. He joined the Order of the Dragon Knights, becoming a noble warrior and pride of the Crusaders, tasked with eliminating evil and slaying demons for the church. Radu knew nothing of his bloodline, but destiny would lead him to the truth. One night, Radu led troops toward his father's castle. Vladislas, unaware, was indulging in bloodlust. Radu arrived suddenly, aiming to retrieve the sacred artifact, the snow stone. Seth rose into the air and attacked the priest. Radu officially faced Vladislas in battle, not knowing this creature was his biological father. Vladislas, fearful of Radu's divine sword, transformed into black mist and vanished after only a few blows, even forgetting to take the snow stone with him. Seth refused to leave so easily. He wanted to awaken the child's bloodline and told Radu everything. But Radu, a devout believer, insisted God was his only father. He rejected Seth's words and refused to acknowledge Vladislas as his parent. Yet deep down, Radu began to believe. Sensing life still within the castle, he and his companion Maris ventured deeper. In the dungeon, they found a mother and her child imprisoned. Maris believed they had been tainted by vampires and wanted to kill them in accordance with God's will. But Radu brushed aside the woman's hair and found no bite marks on her neck. She quickly explained her name was Helena, and she had been abducted and abused by Vladislas, but never bitten. Her child, Stephen, was Vladislas' illegitimate son. Vladislas intended to turn Stephen into a vampire once he was older. Moved by her plea, Radu decided to spare them. Maris disagreed but was no match for Radu and had to obey. The four left the vampire's castle and wandered until nightfall before finding a place to rest. Helena took the opportunity to seduce Radu, guiding his hand to her thigh, but he resisted. He placed her safely in a mountain cave while he and Maris kept watch outside. At dawn, Stephen screamed when he saw the sunlight. Perhaps his vampire blood had started to awaken. Radu reassured him, saying he had merely spent too long in the dark and needed time to adapt. Maris silently watched everything. Eventually, Maris decided to leave, unwilling to continue traveling with the mother and son. He believed they would inevitably fall into darkness and become vampires. As daylight grew stronger, Radu returned to the cave to wake Helena. But she hid under her cloak, unwilling to show her face. When Radu lifted the dark fabric, he was shocked to see the early signs of vampirism on her body. Although stunned, he chose to believe in the humanity that still remained within Helena and continued the journey with her and Stephen. They traveled throughout the day until finding shelter in another cave come nightfall. Again, Helena tried to seduce Radu. To prove he was still merely human, Radu intentionally came closer, only to brush against a wound on Helena's leg, clearly a vampire bite. Raising his blade, he was poised to kill her, but at the last moment, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Instead, Radu allowed Helena to drink from the bloodstone, a sacred relic filled with the blood of Sentu, known to calm fallen souls and relieve suffering. Over time, It seemed to keep her mind intact and hold back the vampiric corruption. But Stephen noticed his mother's changes, and in heartfelt concern, urged Radu to eliminate her before she fully succumbed. Radu refused, for now. He believed he would do what was necessary if, and when, the moment came. Days passed. Helena drank each night from the bloodstone, growing more radiant, her skin smoother and more youthful. Radu, entranced by her beauty, eventually succumbed to temptation. Under Helena's coaxing, he tasted the son's blood, and she took the opportunity to bite his neck and feed him her own blood, awakening his dormant vampire heritage. At that moment, Vladislas appeared. He seized Helena by the hair, reclaimed his bloodstone, and ordered Stephen to take the Sword of Laertes. Then the three vanished, leaving behind a stunned Radu. Once a proud knight of the church, Radu was now transformed into a creature of the night. Lost and unsure how to survive, he pursued his old comrade Maris, pleading with him to kill him. But just as Maris was about to strike, a cold blade pierced his body. Seth had returned. Still resentful toward Vladislas for abandoning her, she proposed an alliance with her son Radu, to kill Vladislas and reclaim the bloodstone. She led Radu back to the cave where she gave birth, and for a century they remained in seclusion. During these years, Radu mastered all vampiric arts and learned demon summoning spells, becoming a supreme nocturnal hunter. Yet, Helena remained his obsession in dreams. One night, Radu stole several of his mother's sacred relics, intending to find Helena and the bloodstone, but Seth discovered him. In desperation, he stabbed her and fled without looking back. Seth cursed him with enduring isolation. "May you live forever in loneliness." By day, Radu slept in graves. By night, he wandered alone, tormented by thoughts of Helena. One evening, he heard beautiful music, a melody that soothed sorrow and inspired longing to possess it forever. The musicians were a pair of blonde siblings, vibrant, youthful, and everything Radu longed for in companionship. Under cover of darkness, he approached their sleeping place. But vampires cannot enter a human dwelling without invitation. He promised the brother, Ash, that if only he accepted his gesture of goodwill. To obtain eternal life, the price was remarkably simple. All he needed was to be surrounded by beautiful music. Ariel, the younger sister, refused to consort with a vampire. But her brother Ash had already fallen under Radu's influence. In an instant, Radu lunged and bit Ash, then threatened Ariel, "Accept the transformation, or watch your brother die." Helpless, both siblings were turned into vampires. Radu now had children of his own. He brought them back to his castle, but when they awoke, they turned against him, unwilling to serve as his slaves. Their defiance, however, didn't last long. Radu locked them in the stone fortress without food for an entire day. Then he returned bringing fresh prey. Though the siblings resisted harming humans, their bloodlust could not be suppressed. In the end, they tore into their victims' throats. And just like that, they became Radu's progeny, accompanying him for several years. Even kind-hearted Ariel eventually turned into a bloodthirsty demon. When Radu deemed the time right, he asked them to resume playing their instruments. Ariel picked up her flute, but only screeching noise came out. She admitted her soul had grown stagnant. She was merely surviving, unable to play joyful music ever again. Radu wasn't angry. Instead, he tried to inspire Ash, telling him, "Joy is not the only muse. Pain, too, can spark creativity." But Ash could not play a melody either. As time passed, Radu began training them in the art of the hunt. If they could not become the sirens of the night, they would become elite vampires instead. Through them, Radu felt something resembling family. But peace never lasts. One night, a young exorcist named Diana infiltrated Radu's castle under cover of darkness. She killed the woman who had recently been turned. Radu and the siblings appeared. He grabbed Diana by the throat. She was a descendant of the sorceress Callisto and held the demon-slaying sword. Furious, Radu sank his fangs into her neck and invited the siblings to drink her blood as well. As Diana lay on the brink of death, Radu bit his own wrist, preparing to turn her. But at that moment, Ash and Ariel snatched the demon-slaying sword and fled. Radu was furious. He abandoned Diana and chased after the siblings. He wandered the earth for 300 years in pursuit. Until one moonless night, he finally found them. He demanded that Ariel return the sword. But she told him it had already been seized by the vampire queen, who now ruled over an entire city. Ariel led Radu into an underground passage. They walked through long corridors and eventually stood before the queen. Radu's eyes widened. It was none other than Helena. 5 centuries had passed since they last saw each other. Helena didn't even recognize the old man Radu had become. Her son Stephen had long died and been reincarnated as a brilliant, wealthy human. Vladislas, tired of endless life, had stabbed himself with the Sword of Laertes. He now lay buried deep beneath the tomb. Helena offered the bloodstone to Radu, but asked for his loyalty in return, a promise to share all resources and power. Radu accepted without hesitation. He collapsed to the ground, savoring the bloodstone's essence. Helena gently caressed his face, appearing tender. But Radu soon realized she had other intentions. Helena desired the young, handsome Ash, not the old, withered Radu. Feigning agreement, Radu offered Ash to Helena and retreated with Ariel. Together, they quietly slipped into the underground tomb, and there, they found the sleeping body of his father. Radu reached toward his chest. Deez was immediately resurrected, but Radu had not come to save him. He was there to fulfill the divine prophecy. He told Deez, "I am your firstborn son," and then drove the Sword of Laertes through his father's heart, killing him completely. Radu returned to the Grand Hall with Ariel, seeking revenge on Helena for her betrayal. Without hesitation, he grabbed her head and snapped her neck. As she lay dying, Helena cursed him, that he would be haunted by her for all eternity. She stabbed him before collapsing. Ash took the chance to steal the bloodstone and tried to escape with his sister. But Ariel, captivated by the bloodshed, refused to flee. Instead, she helped the wounded Radu outside, worried he might die. But Radu was immortal, such wounds meant nothing. Moved by her loyalty, Ariel began sucking blood from his wound. Radu, touched, promised her freedom. But Ariel had already fallen for him and chose to stay by his side. Suddenly, Diana reappeared, now a vampire, though no one knew who had turned her. She remained committed to her exorcist's duty. With a crossbow, she shot and killed Ariel. Radu wept in anguish. Just when he had found a true companion, he lost her again. The story between Radu and Diana was not over, but the video abruptly ended. This film, Asia Dance, produced by Full Moon Features, is one of the peak entries from their vampire series. A prequel, Asia Dance does not require viewing the earlier films. As a 2025 reboot, it retains the 1990s Gothic style and theatrical performance. With practical effects and traditional cinematography, it revives the original aesthetic of vampire cinema. Notably, it stars Anders Hov from the 1991 original, reprising his role as Radu. His performance is so authentic, it's easy to forget this is a modern film. As a tribute to fans, this work delivers sincere passion and nostalgia.